Welcome to Reinventions in Between, your go-to podcast for real stories of reinvention that happen between life stages, career changes, and living abroad. I'm Sara Kojola, a life coach, intercultural trainer, and reinvention facilitator, helping people on their quest to what's next. I have reinvented myself a few times, and in the past 20 years, I've collected fascinating stories of change. In each episode, my guests will talk about the why and how they took the leap and seized the opportunity to change their life. You'll hear accents, countries, vulnerability, and hooray! Let's begin. Buongiorno and welcome everyone. I'm so happy and glad to be sitting in Melbourne today with guest Agnese Bresin. Bresin, did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I'd like to do a brief introduction and then we dive into questions because she has a juicy story to tell everyone. So, excuse me if I go to my notes on her bio. So, Agnese is an Italian-born linguist based in Australia. And after completing her PhD in 2017, she worked at La Trobe University and University of Melbourne. She has conducted research in the area of language and identities, migration and diversity. I love those topics. And is currently co-investigator in the project Italian Languages and Identities in Melbourne. Very interesting. We are going to talk about that. But this year, this very year, 2025, she founded Buongiorno Bimbi, a new language school offering Italian for kids in Melbourne.
Yes.
How come? Why this decision? What is the project behind Buongiorno Bimbi?
I did my PhD here in Melbourne, and this is, I've always had a passion for languages, all of my experience revolves around languages. But after trying to have a career in academia for maybe 12 years, so after my PhD, I gave it a good go. I had two babies and I had some pretty rewarding experiences, but it was never, I haven't managed to find a full-time, I'm not a full-time, sorry, a permanent job. I've applied for many jobs, postdocs, and it was never successful. So it was only temporary work, replacing someone on maternity leave, and always really good feedback, but never really landed a proper job. So I gave myself another year or two, and then so I have been wondering about a change of career for quite a while. But then just it was a couple of things that happened in a row, a couple of disappointments in a row, and then I realized it was the right time to make a move.
I bet it must have been frustrating at first to make this decision, or at least even to start searching for a different opportunity. But searching for opportunities is the key of success sometimes.
Absolutely. I have to say that the frustrating part was not getting the jobs that I was applying for. And then I actually realized, but do I really want that job? Is it really me? Because I don't know, it might be just a psychological mechanism that you have been rejected, so then you want to reject that world as well. But I started thinking that maybe that's not really what I wanted. It's not really me. I don't know. It's a beautiful world, but I was also thinking how useful is that for the world to have a career just revolving around describing languages. I don't know. But so the frustrating part was, yeah, the rejection basically that I felt from academia in general. Then the rest was quite energizing, actually.
That's a very good reflection, actually. How can we use what we have learned in a different context or to make it useful for other people. And I bet this was one of the reasons you thought about, or at least that is behind your project.
Yeah, so at that point, when I realized that I had enough of trying in finding my own place in academia, then I was at the point where I had to make some choices about which direction to go. I like languages, but where should I go? Interpreting and translating, or into a teaching job, maybe in secondary schools or primary schools, because there's a lot of demand at the moment in Australia, or trying to find a different way. And basically, what helped me to decide was the fact that I was find myself really invested in my own life with my own children, trying to raise them as bilinguals. And then I realized that maybe there was an opportunity there for a change of career in that direction. So basically, turning my passion for raising bilingual children into a job.
That's great. And have you ever, while you were talking, it came to mind, I thought, have you ever heard about the expression rejection means redirection?
No, but it really fits what I just was talking about.
It's in a very different context, a manifestation or a kind of rethinking or reconsidering things that happen to us during our life. And sometimes the way of interpreting rejection is really how to find a new direction and how beautifully you shifted your even your gaze or looking at what was important to you, I suppose. So bringing up two kids in a foreign country, not so foreign for them, because that's another interesting topic about bringing up kids when we don't share the same cultural identity. But that was something priority, number one, probably for you. And you saw that passion connected to your values. We talk about values in coaching and how these become for us like our north. And so when we work aligned to those values, sometimes not always easy, but definitely is more rewarding and we find the motivation every day.
Absolutely. For me, it was just realizing I have been facilitated in this by my partner, who said, "Why don't you turn this into a job? If you can't find a job, then make your own job." So he was very encouraging in this comment. And there's another aspect that is really vital. So when I said that what I was already doing, that could become a job. So I mentioned raising bilingual children, but there's another aspect that is really crucial, which is the fact that in the last year or so, maybe 1.5 years, I have been actively connecting with a bunch of Italian-speaking families in the surrounding areas where I live. So I have been building this community. I did not have any business in mind when I did that. It was just the realization that to raise bilingual children, I'm gonna, make a big effort in my home, but to normalize the language, you need to speak it outside the home. Otherwise, the child would learn that, okay, Italian is the home language. And then when I'm outside the home, I'll speak English because we live in Australia and it's only natural to do so. But if you hang out with other Italian-speaking families, then the children will realize that, oh, actually, Italian is a community language. It's not just my family language. So building this community with kids of the same age, a similar age, who live in the same area, so you can catch up for play dates and have fun together and read Italian books together, eat Italian food together, play Italian games together. All this has been creating this enormous momentum, and this group has been growing and growing. There's around 80 families now in the WhatsApp group that I facilitate. And this is an incredible energy, and I can't stress enough the amount of good stuff that is coming out of this community. I keep receiving messages from the members saying, Agnese, we can't thank you enough. I made really good friends, and other people found what they needed. It could be a pram, it could be a car seat, or, advice on visa or dentist for children, all these things. And the fact that we are feeling home in here, and makes a lot more sense when you share it with others who are in your similar situation. So that also made me think, wow, okay, there's such a positive response. It's not just meaningful to me and to my family. There's a whole lot of other families who can relate to this and can really feel that they belong in this community if we just build it a bit more and just hang out with each other a bit more. As simple as that.
I love it, and I love the fact that you mentioned the sense of belonging, which is one of the very first feeling that most of the newcomers don't have and they struggle with. And so building this community, you not just help yourself and your family, but you're serving a bigger community that is a welcoming place for them. And I can just imagine the ripple effect of working at least at creating those values all around you. Um, and that brings me a thought about how most of the time we struggle in finding ways of rethinking our professional identity or how we can contribute. And the simple thing is just thinking about going inward, back to ourselves, and think what matters to me. So, what is important, what I value, and also in this time, the life phases, if we think, when we have babies, we have needs that are specific to this age and this specific life phase. And when we move towards maybe when you're 40 or 50, completely different. If you have teenage kids, you might have more time for yourself and you can also be interested in other topics. So
I'm not there yet.
that's my I'm there. But just to say how it's easy really to go back to ourselves and find inspiration and find ways of be the bridge um,
Yeah.
to the local culture as well.
Hmm.
Be the bridge and find and create what we would like to find for ourselves.
Hmm.
And then, yes, um, you're also not just helping other families keep the Italian alive in their households, but you're also helping creating this new identity for those kids. But I wanted to pick your to have your insight as a linguist.
Okay.
So we know that every Italian person would like their kids to learn the language. But there's a big stress on that because the kids who grow up in a different country, they are totally present to their everyday life.
Yeah.
They are immersed in the language of the country they live in.
Hmm.
Um, but not just Italian. Can you just give some of the findings, which I know they go to problem solving, other skills, and neuroplasticity? What are the other benefits of being bi or multilingual that can be interesting for parents to know?
Well, you mentioned a couple already, but for me, I just can't help going back to the concept of belonging. So when you know who you are and you know who you're from, and you know that you're half Italian, you're half Australian, it makes a lot of sense. You just feel comfortable in yourself. You don't need to hide the fact that your mom is a migrant. You don't need to hide the fact that maybe she doesn't speak English the same way as your teacher does. And you don't need to hide the fact that for a month, a year, you disappear and then you come back with a weird accent. So there's all this aspects of your identity that are there, and they're there to be celebrated. It's wonderful. It's very rich, important richness that we have. And bilingualism is just the key and the proud expression of multiculturalism. So basically, a child who is comfortable with themselves being half Italian and half Australian, they can position themselves as someone who is interculturally trained. They know what diversity is and they value it and they celebrate it. And hopefully, the really long-term goal, or let's say the long-term super positive effect for me, is that they will be able to celebrate diversity in all its aspects. So once you have learned that there's not only one way to say things, there's not only one way to view the world, at that point you welcome all diversity, and that includes all other communities, disabilities, gender fluidity. So hopefully to create that frame of mind that is not rigid, there's only one truth, but just to be able to be open and accept all diversity, really.
Oh, beautifully said. I really love that. And I think it's also another way of seeing that skill as a new competence and not just being the person that doesn't speak the local or the main language,
Mhm.
and instead stressing the fact that bilingual or multilinguals can speak more than one language and understand more, and having that empathy of understanding others and what challenges others have been through every time that they move or migrate to a new country. So yes, I love everything you said, and I completely agree with you. The importance of all those set of values that we are equipping our kids, in educating them this
And
way.
sorry, if I can add one more aspect, there's also your attitude towards making mistakes and perfection. So knowing that if you don't speak a language perfectly and then you become comfortable with the fact that you're gonna make mistakes, but people are gonna understand you. And if they don't understand, then you try again. So it's about building resilience and about, again, accepting mistakes and about, again, reiterating that there's not one way to say things. There will be different accents, there will be different languages, there'll be different dialects. Hello, we are from Italy. So all of these things, they just create, hopefully, cosmopolitan citizens with open minds, able to appreciate everything that is different from themselves, as opposed to, racism and discrimination, rejection, and all of the awful stuff.
Absolutely. Also, not to mention that multilinguals are more in the world. There are more multilinguals than monolinguals, and so it's not a minority. Um
Yeah, numbers, yeah, but then if you look at power relations, then yeah.
that's
But
another.
again, if you teach your child that, or they will naturally position themselves as someone who know more than monolinguals. They have seen more, they understand more, and they can capture more.
I think absolutely in the lens of empathy, understanding, and collaboration. It's also a key to make those concepts be more available to everyone. And I've seen myself to become an advocate for my kids in school here, especially here, because at the beginning when we arrived, most of the teachers in school thought that my kids couldn't speak fluently the language, and they were always stressing the fact that they need to adapt and integrate. Whereas I was trying to explain the teacher themselves that my kids were actually using two or three. Um, would you say this registro in English language?
Registers,
Uh, Maybe a different term, but
yeah,
anyway, they were using two or three languages at a time and making the sense
systems,
of
yeah.
not known words for them. It was just a thinking moment and not a completely blank
Yeah.
moment for them. So they were working towards upgrading that skill and that competence linguistically, but they had to process it in more than one language. So that
Mm-hmm.
was something more profound, probably more difficult for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Fascinating. But yes, if we go back to talk about your project, can I ask you um, a few more questions? So, how have you planned the shift? Have you quit your academia career? Have you started in small steps? What was your project coming to life?
So at that point, when I decided that I was going to try to open a school, an Italian school for kids, my involvement with academia was already um, composed of a number of small jobs. So whether it's tutoring job just for the semester or some research work for particular projects. So it hasn't been a definite stop, but a gradual transition. On top of the work in academia, I also have a number of other bits and pieces, freelance jobs that I have as a consultant or proofreader or author. So there's a combination of things. They all revolve around languages. So there's no mistake in that. But it does help, especially the financial side of the transition. So I'm in a very lucky position that I don't need to worry too much about um, the finances. Also, I have found an arrangement in which opening this business does not involve a lot of investment, economic investment. It's very limited. So I'm quite relaxed from the financial side of things. So I have all these bits and pieces that keep me afloat economically and then pay the bills. And then I can invest my time and efforts in creating this new business and build it gradually. Because at the beginning, obviously, it's not paying the bills yet. It's been a very recent move. So just to gradually increase the business, keeping the other bits and pieces going.
Which is something that we often suggest and recommend in the episodes. That is a good idea to keep a foot in your previous business, or if you can have um, if you keep consulting or freelancing, it's a good way to also keep a network open and active,
Yeah.
so you can relate to other people to seek out for jobs, and then at the same time you can taste and the new project you're going to build, and give yourself the time to see if the market is ready for your idea.
Mhm.
How many, and I bet you have done a market research also, understanding the population that has a need or want to take classes in Italian for the little ones.
Mhm.
So this way of approaching a career transition is probably the safest one, and also implies that you have less stress in quitting completely a source of income and
Yeah.
having an opportunity to test a new project.
Yes, absolutely. And the choice of, how much you want to put into the new business for my particular case was also influenced by the availability of venue to run this business. So, for example, I was looking for venues that were suitable in the northern suburbs because this is where my community is, and this is also where I noticed that there wasn't any language school for, sorry, Italian language school for kids yet. So when I was looking for venues, then I was limited by the fact that there were not many available. So it has to be in the morning because the young kids that you need to put them in, so, a new environment in the morning because in the afternoon you never know when they nap, if they've napped, if they're not in the right mood. So it had to be in the morning. Most of the venues were busy in the morning, and then when I finally found the venue, this is only open on Mondays and Fridays. Sorry, free on Mondays and Fridays, because then the other days of the week they run their own childcare services. So it was a combination of what was available and what was I ready to do. So 2 days a week, okay, it's fair enough. It's a good compromise. I can give it a go. And then Wednesdays, my little one is with me or with my partner. So it was a good compromise that I found. So you kind of need to find your way in whatever is available at that specific time.
Great tip and great suggestion. I think it's the best way to also look locally, as you said. Most
Yeah,
of the time, the local resources are great, and I'm amazed how Australia for this is welcoming to new business
same.
idea.
Yeah.
And I wanted to reconnect to something you said before about your partner suggesting to start a business and stressing how it is easy to start a business in Australia. Not that you have to have the guarantee that it works. That's a different way. But at least you can start with a very little amount, and the following day you can run your project. And if there's market, it could work.
Absolutely. It's an actually my partner said another thing. So from my partner is from Australia and he runs his own business. He's a sole trader doing gardening and garden maintenance. So there's another very encouraging thing that he said, coming from his own perspective. And he said, you can definitely find, create your own business. You get all the skills. It's not hard. You don't need to hire consultants here and there. You can just give it a go if you've got some ideas. And so that's exactly what I did. I was encouraged by him, and I did take a good look at myself and my skills. Okay, I'm quite an organized person. I can run things, I can book venues. I can probably try to do something on social media to promote it. And also, I'm from Italy, and in Italy, if you need to open a business, you need to hire an accountant, a commercialista. There's all these steps that you need to do. It looks undoable. It's not feasible. You just give up. It's gonna cost a lot of money. Whereas in here, it's really easy that if
And give it a go. So you were mentioning how also having this different perspective and looking at the opportunities in the host country. So we are
Mhm,
talking not just about Australia, but everyone who is listening now, think about the country you are in, or if not based in your country, some people now are doing digital work or remotely, any sort of work. So
mhm,
the reference market might be different, not just the country they are living in.
absolutely.
So use that growth mindset and think where I can market my services. And
Mhm.
especially, you were also saying, um, talking about your, yes, so um, not just the opportunity that you have locally, and you were mentioning about the community that you were building, and you found this learning center that gave you possibility to open a couple of days per week, so you were testing um, this project. Another thing that I was curious to talk about a little bit, your competencies that your partner said you have all the skills,
Yeah.
and you can just use it with a different audience. So not in academia, but with kids.
Yeah.
And in your pre-interview, um, we I heard you saying and talking about how you teach the sounds to the kids using
Hmm.
visual because they cannot read yet. And I
That's right.
remember when I was living in Thailand, Bangkok, years ago, I remember I was attending the French Culture Center, and there were some kids learning Chinese Mandarin, which is a mix. Sorry, I'm doing a mix of languages, but that was the experience that I had, and I was fascinated about the fact that kids at such a young age were learning sounds, which Chinese Mandarin and Vietnamese, they are tonal languages. They are very difficult to learn for
Mm,
us,
yeah.
Westerner,
Hmm.
and they are based on sounds and visual. And so so can you give us an insight about this and how kids that can't read learn the sound?
Well, that I can tell you what I do. So it is mostly things that I tested with my own kids. So I come up with things that work with them and then try it with other kids and see if that works. But in general, I use a lot of songs, and we're lucky that there's so many songs around. So Italian kids songs, all the topics. So normally if I choose, I would like to do a topic with the kids today, and that's, for example, autumn. And so you find songs about autumn, you find books about autumn, and you find an activity about autumn. And then you can do colors and numbers around autumn. You can count the leaves or you can color the leaves, and you can collect leaves in the outdoor area. So it's all, I like it when it's all connected and it all makes sense. But the sounds are really important. So we have a playlist at home, and I played it a lot. It's all Italian kids songs, and it's amazing how kids can memorize the songs before they know what they actually mean. They just memorize the sounds because the music helps. And then once they have memorized the songs, then they retrieve it at the right time when it's relevant for what they are doing slash talking about or hearing. So it's amazing how they can identify the dry leaves, the dead leaves, and the colors and the season, and it all makes sense to them. I don't know, it's really fascinating. They have these fantastic brains with their databases, and they're able to make connections, and then they surprise you, and they have retrieved the right song which talks about the same thing, or they have made a connection, or they have realize that the first letter of that word is the same as the first letter of the other word, and I have seen it written in the alphabet chart, which is in another language, but it's the same similar word. It's a cognate. They make all these sorts of connections, and you're puzzled, and you're like, wow, it worked. And sometimes it works in unexpected ways, but the main thing is that they have fun, because that's the really the main thing, because otherwise they don't want to do it, they don't want to come back, they don't want to listen to that song, they don't want to hear you talk, read those books in the different language. So it needs to be fun for them. I've been lucky enough that my girls are really into books and languages and stories and song. I don't know, they're really curious kids, and they love everything really that we're proposing. And they love Italy. They love it when we go there. They love the nonni. So there's all this emotional component, which is all positive. So it needs to be there for the motivation, I think, for the traction to keep putting some efforts in it.
And that goes into the social emotional learning
Mm.
benefits. And when you were talking about all these connections, in my mind, I was visualizing the brain synapses.
That's right.
And so there's so little that we know what's going on in the little brain, but they're working at speed of light
Yes,
when
and they
they're
remember
learning.
things that you said maybe 1 year ago, or a person that they met long time ago, but it was that little incident that they remember. I don't know, they really pull out memories from out of nowhere, and you're like, wow, you remember that we bumped into that person in a different context, and they said that word, and that's the same word that we're talking about now. It's incredible.
Amazing creature. So glad to have them around, and we just have to learn from them.
That's right.
It was an amazing conversation. I have just two more questions
Sure.
that I'd like to go. into to let the people know what's your biggest learning since you made that shift or you open up to work in a different um, context with your skills.
Uh, One biggest learning, it's hard to identify one. I would like to mention a couple. One is that I can believe in myself, so I can do it. Even if I haven't done a degree in this, I partly, the linguistics is my field, so I definitely have some knowledge there. But I also am a mom of bilingual children. So even if I haven't worked my whole life towards this, I can still do it and learn as I go. If I feel confident enough, if I'm supported enough, and if I have bounced my ideas off other people who I trust, whose opinions I trust, and they all said, definitely you can do it, you can do this and that, little tweaks here and there. And then if it all makes sense, I can just do it and give it a go. The other thing that I need to learn is the emotional side of it. So
Mm,
if it doesn't work, then I need to be prepared to give it up. Or everybody say you need to give it at least 1 year before you give it up. So I need to prepare or try to be prepared for the emotional side of it. If one day I have zero bookings, then I might feel sad. Or if a customer who has come regularly for 5, 6 weeks, then they drop out, I need to deal with that. So the emotional side is I need to try to stay resilient, ask for feedback, try to learn from the feedback, but don't just let let the small defeat kill the motivation to continue. So it's a bit of a roller coaster emotionally, especially the beginning, because that one customer means a lot to you if you only have one at the moment.
absolutely. And not be attached to the negative connotation that we might come up. Also, I think from a mentality point of view, so if that happens, I suggest maybe look um, at the learning. So looking at that situation with the learning lens, what am I learning from this not having a new customer this week? Or on the opposite, if I have this new free time, I don't have a class, but I have free time. What I can do in this free time, maybe prepare for a new marketing campaign or trying to propose something new. So if we try to shift from a negative perspective and we look at what is possible, yes, and uh, we are just detached, so not be so attached to what is um, our previous way of interpreting reality and see what can come up without being attached to the outcome. Um,
Yeah, that old chestnut of managing expectations, right? If you have an expectation to have that number of customers every week, and then if that expectation is not met, then the disappointment arises,
Of
right?
course,
Yes.
which of course it needs to be on the business plan because we always says in this podcast, don't start a new business without being prepared. So be prepared, but also learn how to be prepared to disappointments or roadblocks, which is a more mature or more resourceful way of facing a new reality, especially in this era of non-linear careers, because we have seen that having the same job throughout our life is no longer the trend, is no
Yeah,
longer
that's
a
right.
reality, and our ability or flexibility, ability to adapt or flexibility to adapt is the key here.
Yeah, and the other thing is to zoom out. Like if this week hasn't been really good, what about the month? What about the term, the trimester, So you can zoom out and say, okay, this is just a wavy line and I can just ride the wave. But then, as you said, not being too attached to what is happening today, because that might not mean a lot, or it might mean something different, like you said, shifting the perspective.
Absolutely. All these little tools that can be used to make our life easy and also to be kind to ourselves. We are actually daring to do something new. So
Mhm.
it's not something that everyone gets the opportunity every day. But when we had the courage to try and go for it and not be discouraged or quit at the
Mhm.
first challenge. I'd like to close this beautiful interview and asking a question that wasn't in the questionnaire, and it's a fun one.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember the movie Sliding Doors.
Right.
Well, you're just at the beginning of this um, new project, but imagine if you ever had that, taken that other perspective at the door, where would you be?
If I hadn't choose this
New project.
okay, new project, I have no idea. I would probably try maybe the translation route. So I'm actually a qualified translator in Italy, but not in Australia. So I would need to get a qualification over here and then maybe join an agency or trying to do some freelance. Yeah, so it's a work that I like, but I wouldn't be as excited as I am now. So translation work for me is a bit lonely. You're just sitting at the computer for hours on end. And yeah, you if the author is available, then you can talk to them and then that's great. You know, a beautiful relationship can emerge from there. But working with kids, there's so much more energy, so much more movement. There's a lot of laughter, and you are amazed at what they do in every minute that you spend with them. So this is much more in line, aligned with my current stage of my life. So it makes a lot more sense to do this now.
Absolutely, I love it. And then you brought up another resource, by the way, when you mentioned. So we are full of resources that we just need to dig into ourselves and look at it with growth mindset or rich and abundance perspective instead of a scarcity one. And I
Mhm.
think it's the best way to progress because every career shift or adaptation, as we can call it many ways, it's always an evolution of what we've been before. And we are not throwing away everything that we've been in general. But
Mm.
thank you so much. Can you tell everyone who is listening where they can find you if they are in Australia, Melbourne, your socials?
For sure. So the school is called Buongiorno Bimbi, and the website is buongiornobimbi.com.au, and Facebook page Buongiorno Bimbi, and same with Instagram. So I look forward to seeing everyone there. Please follow me, have a look at my reels. Feel free to comment. I'm really new at all the social media marketing stuff. But yeah, if you wanna like or follow me, that helps with the small business, especially when they're this young. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We want to support each other and the community project. So, for those who are not fluent in Italian, because she said buongiorno baby very fast, I'm going to type.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. But I'm going to, you find all the links in the show notes. So you will find Agnese. Um, um, Click like, follow on social media, and send us your question or let us know what you like about this episode. And we want to hear from you. Thank you so much. Agnese, it
Thank
was a
you, Tara.
beautiful episode. Thank you.
Thank you, and bye, everyone. Stay safe. Ciao.
Ciao. Thank you for listening. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your number one takeaway from the conversation with my guest? We would love to hear your comments. You find all the links in the show notes. If you're curious about reinvention, go download my free guide your first steps. Don't forget to hit subscribe where you listen to your podcast, and you'll get inspired on how you can navigate change in your own life. Find more information and resources at between-cultures.com.